Hello there, this is Dave Motohead again, out in the garage working on stuff, fixing things and doing all kinds of mechanical type, jobs around the house. Anyways, this video is going to be replacing a fan bearing without taking the housing off of the engine. This is something that I did a long time ago when I was a kid, when I actually drove to Oregon and my fan bearing seized up on me, and I went to a local auto parts store and grabbed me a torch and took the car apart and fixed it on the road. Well, let me put the hat cam on and I'll explain to you what's going on here. Anyways, there's an engine right here, and this thing's got a bad fan bearing. And when you're on the road and this thing blows up, you want to be able to remove it, without taking the top cover off. And one of the most critical things is getting the height right of this hub, the fan hub right here. You want to get the height right. And what I did on the road was I went to the hardware store and I grabbed me some long threaded bolts that I could stick down inside the fan hub here. And what I did was I screwed them in because I knew that the fan hub was at the right height because I've been running the car, and there's a certain height that tolerance that this hub has to fit in, where the fan fits flush and fits tight to the upper shroud and everything. So I went out and I bought me some bolts like this, and I screwed them in until they just hit the fan top like that. Okay, and then I went and I marked the bolt right here. I marked it. I got me a longer one and I marked it, and then I pulled it back out and I cut a few other bolts to the same height, or I guess you would call this a long screw. And as you see here, these are two that I actually cut these in, 1985 or something, and I've kept them ever since. And as you can see, what I've done is I've screwed them into the bearing, and they hit right here on the top cover. And so when you go to press the fan bearing in, it only lets it go down so far, and it gets it to the right height. And so anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew these things. Grab this here. I'm going to put these in the new fan bearing, and I'm going to see if I can do this without the screwdriver falling off. Anyway, I'm going to unscrew these things, and I'm going to put them in the new fan bearing hub, and then when I go to put it in the top cover, it'll be at the right height. Oh, there's my screw. Anyway, you can see that's the little screw right there that I cut that marks my height. So anyways, what I'll do is I will put these in the new bearing, and I'm going to throw it in the freezer for a couple hours, and then I'll get right back to you. Hold on. Okay, I got my bearing here out of the freezer. You don't have to really put it in there for too long. I want to kind of scrape some of the little frost off of it a little bit. And I've got my little stoppers in there so it won't slide in too far. And the next thing I want to do is I want to get me a torch, or a little propane torch here, and get me a glove here. I'm going to start heating this thing up. I want to heat this thing up all the way around it and get it nice and hot. I'm going to put my new bearing right over here so I can grab it easily. Anyway, you want to heat up the base here, where the aluminum right there, and you want to kind of go around with the torch and make it nice and hot, and go around all sides of it here. And you want to heat that aluminum up so you can pull that fan bearing out. And you see, you just keep going around with the torch. Sometimes it takes a little while. And I got safety glasses on because there's been times in the past where I pulled it out and some oil squirted up in my face. So you don't want to stand right over the top of this thing when you're heating it up, because just in case a little bit of oil comes flying out at you,
It's also a good idea when you do this to disconnect your PCV tube here so it'll vent out the top easier. You know, especially when you're on the road, in the car on the road, you want to disconnect that. You got to take it all apart anyway, so it's best to leave it off there. But just heat this up for a while, and with the little torch like this, oxyacetylene torch, it takes a lot shorter. With this kind of torch, it takes a lot longer to heat it up evenly, because this thing doesn't burn as hot as the normal torches do. But you want to get that sucker nice and hot to where that thing will, you can usually just pull them out by hand. And as you see, I'm just working around it and around it and around it. Try to get that thing hot. Sometimes you can see them fall into place once it gets hot enough. They can just fall. And anyways, hopefully I won't have to pry anything out of there. Last time I did this, I just pulled it right out by hand once it was hot enough. I feel like I'm going around a merry-go-round here, getting that thing hot. And let's see, it might be hot enough now. Nope, not yet. I'm going to keep going and going and going until it's hot enough. Like I said, you don't want to leave the torch in any one place for too long. And with it being hooked onto this top cover, it takes a little bit longer because the top cover acts like a heat sink. And you know, the heat goes down in here for a long time. And anyway, you just want to keep heating it and keep heating it, and pretty soon it'll come right out like that. And you saw that, came right out. And then you keep the heat on there, and you take your new one and you just slide it right in. And there you are. You let that sucker cool for a while, and you're ready to go. Now you're at the right height, and you should be ready to go there. So anyway, that's pretty much how you do that. Let me take the hat cam off and put the regular cam back on, or the regular hat back on. Anyways, Dave Motorhead, and that's pretty much how you change those bearings when you're out on the road. Pretty simple. It just takes a little patience, a little ingenuity, and you get that thing in there at the right height. And once that all cools off, and you know, the fan bearing will heat up and the top cover will cool down, and it grabs onto it, and then you're ready to go. So it's Dave Motorhead, and thanks for watching. What are you doing?